Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast, Advanced English Listening Practice topic name is Creative Thinking in the Workplace. Welcome to the deep dive. For our session today, we are jumping straight into a topic that has really moved from the edge of corporate thinking right to the center of it.
It absolutely has.
We're talking about creative thinking in the workplace, and our mission today is pretty direct. We're analyzing material that treats creativity not as a soft skill, but as the single most critical, non-negotiable professional superpower for success in the 21st century.
It's a really essential reframing, and frankly, it's a matter of professional urgency. If you look around the modern professional environment, we're seeing this unprecedented transformation.
Right.
It's all driven by the acceleration of AI and some pretty sophisticated automation. These systems are getting really good, really fast at handling routine calculations, massive data analysis, even complex but predictable tasks.
So the predictable stuff, the repeatable parts of the job, the parts that, let's be honest, many of us built our careers on, that's what's being digitized.
That's it, precisely. The core message here is that simply doing the work, just executing predictable tasks efficiently, is no longer a guarantee of survival or growth.
For the individual or the company?
For either of them. Yeah. The entire value proposition of the human professional has shifted.
Okay, let's unpack that shift. If the machines are handling the data, the routines, what's left? What is the uniquely human contribution that organizations are now, willing to pay a premium for?
What's left is our capacity for true human ingenuity. Its imagination, its intuition, and its find. Well, the research calls it the audacious leap of faith.
I like that, an audacious leap of faith.
That's what defines real creativity. This is our strategic advantage now. And the material argues this elevates the role of every single professional. It's no longer about following the script.
It's about rewriting the whole narrative.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people still mentally put creativity in a box, It's for the artists, the designers, maybe the people in R&D. But if we follow this logic, it has to apply to every single function.
Without question. We're talking about the accountant who doesn't just process taxes, but creatively comes up with a completely new financial reporting system, one that gives leadership a kind of visibility they've never had.
Or the engineer on the factory floor.
Right. The manufacturing engineer,
right,
who doesn't just fix a broken machine, but creatively reimagines the entire workflow for a tenfold gain in efficiency. Or say, the HR specialist who innovates a whole new client engagement strategy that actually transforms the company culture.
That's a really powerful distinction. So creativity is everywhere because it's the engine that drives strategic innovation.
And it's the compass that guides us through ambiguity, through effective problem solving.
And it's the bedrock of our adaptability, both as organizations and as individuals.
You've hit the nail on the head. Our deep dive today will extract that indispensable value and provide you, the listener, with concrete, actionable strategies for cultivating it. Because this isn't some inherited talent, it's a skill.
A skill that has to be intentionally built, practiced, and fostered.
That's the key.
Okay, so to really harness this power and move it beyond just another corporate buzzword, we need a solid definition. What is creative thinking in a professional context? It's got to be more structured than just, waiting for a light bulb to go off, right?
Oh, it's entirely structured. The material defines creative thinking as a dynamic cognitive process. It's made up of 5 interconnected elements that have to work together. It's not a single act.
It's a loop.
It's an ongoing, complex loop of mental activity.
And the fundamental, the initial spark in that loop is just generating new concepts.
That's the starting line. Component number 1 is imagination and idea generation. Academics often call this divergent thinking.
Divergent, so spreading out.
Exactly. It's the core ability to just conjure up novel concepts, new possibilities, alternatives. And the focus here is critical. It's purely on quantity and originality. You're just aiming for volume and breadth.
So no self-censorship at this stage. We're purposely aiming for the impractical, maybe even the wild ideas.
That's the goal. This is where you use techniques like brainstorming, mind mapping, free association. The idea is to maximize the surface area of potential ideas. You're broadening the scope. Judgment is completely suspended for now.
But a huge pile of wild ideas doesn't automatically create value. You need a way to refine them.
Right. And that brings us to component number 2, which is the necessary intellectual counterbalance. It's what prevents us from just falling into chaos.
Okay.
This is critical thinking and evaluation. You can call it convergent thinking.
So coming back together.
Yes. Once the divergent process has given you this plethora of options, this component steps in to filter, to analyze, refine, and select the most viable ones. This stage is extremely rigorous.
This is where the feasibility study happens, essentially.
Essentially, yes. It involves assessing the potential impact of an idea, the resource requirements, money, people, time, and fundamentally, how well the idea aligns with the organization's strategic goals. This is where you narrow everything down, using disciplined logic to find a solution that is both novel and implementable.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Component number 3 often gets overlooked, but a lot of innovators argue it's the hardest part, the biggest creative leap of all.
It is. We're talking about problem identification and framing.
Right.
And this point cannot be overstated. True creativity often lies not in finding some ingenious solution, but in correctly identifying and articulating the real problem in the first place. This is where creative thinkers genuinely shine.
How so?
They recognize the unspoken needs, they challenge the surface-level symptoms that everyone else is focused on, and they reframe the challenges in a fundamental way.
So instead of a team asking, how do we make our customers wait less time in line?
A creative thinker asks, is the wait time really the problem? Or is the lack of transparency during the wait the actual source of the dissatisfaction?
That's a huge shift.
It's a total shift. They uncover the root causes by asking that defining question. Is this truly the problem we should be solving right now? Because if you throw all your resources at solving the wrong problem, even if you solve it brilliantly,
the whole effort is wasted.
Completely wasted. This framing ability is what separates a small, incremental improvement from a true breakthrough innovation.
Okay, moving on to the 4th key component. This is about the mental capacity that turns all this disparate information into actual value.
That's synthesis and connection. This is the ability to fuse existing elements in entirely new ways, or to draw unexpected parallels between concepts that seem completely unrelated on the surface.
It's the classic connecting the dots.
It is. It's leveraging all your diverse knowledge and experiences from your career, your hobbies, your reading, to form a cohesive, novel whole.
I always think of the invention of Velcro. It wasn't some brand new technology pulled from thin air.
No, it wasn't.
It was a synthesis, right? The observation of those burrs clinging to a dog's fur connected with an understanding of material science. Two completely unrelated concepts, creatively connected.
That is the perfect historical example. The creative act is so often one of assembly, not creation from nothing. It's about seeing relationships that everyone else has missed.
And finally, the 5th component, the one that makes this whole creative process practical, it moves it out of the abstract and into the real business world.
Yes, that's experimentation and iteration. Creative thinking is never a one-shot deal. It's not a single moment of genius.
Right.
It absolutely demands a willingness to experiment, to build low-fidelity prototypes quickly, to test your hypotheses rigorously, and, maybe most importantly, to learn from your successes and your failures.
It's that continuous loop again: ideation, execution, learning, and refinement.
And that loop is what transforms an initial spark of an idea into a functional, revenue-generating outcome.
Understanding this whole 5-part process really helps clarify a distinction that the material makes, one that often gets blurred in corporate speak.
The difference between creativity and innovation.
Yes, that clarity is so crucial.
It really is. So creative thinking is rigorously defined as the input. It's the process of generating novel and useful ideas. It lives primarily in the mind.
And innovation is the output. It's the successful market-ready implementation of those ideas that creates tangible new value, whether that's financial, operational, or even social value.
They exist in this symbiotic relationship. Creativity is the raw fuel. Innovation is the delivered engine. Creativity fuels the innovation process, and then successful innovation validates the utility of that initial creative idea.
So you could have millions of creative ideas that never see the light of day. That would make you creative, but not innovative.
And conversely, you cannot be truly innovative without that initial creative spark. They depend on each other.
So that makes the case for what creativity is. Now we have to get to the why. Why is this process so foundational? Not just a nice to have, but a necessity for organizational survival and for the longevity of an individual's career.
The arguments are really compelling, and they speak directly to the pressures of the modern economy. Let's explore the 6 foundational reasons outlined in the materials.
Let's start with the big one, the lifeblood of business.
Right. The first reason is the most obvious, but also the most critical for survival. Creative thinking is the relentless engine behind innovation and sustainable growth.
It's simple, isn't it? If you're not creatively differentiating, you're just becoming a commodity.
You're commoditizing yourself. And this plays out so clearly in product evolution. It requires not just, optimizing the products you already have, but developing completely new ones that proactively anticipate customer needs, redefining how they experience a service.
You can't just keep making a slightly better version of the same thing.
Look at that famous Apple example again. They didn't settle for making incremental improvements on existing cell phones. They made a creative leap. They synthesized the phone, the music player, and the internet into one device. And in doing so, they fundamentally changed the human technology interface.
And that creative foresight is what sustained their dominant growth for years.
It's the perfect example. And this creative necessity goes way beyond physical products. It has to drive business model transformation as well.
How a business actually operates and makes money.
Precisely. Creative thinking reshapes how a business fundamentally operates. It's what ensures its resilience. Netflix's pivot is the textbook case here.
From mailing DVDs.
Right, moving from the complex logistics of DVD distribution to a scalable, subscription-based streaming model. It required a huge creative acceptance that their new business might actually cannibalize their existing revenue stream.
But the alternative was worse.
They knew that the failure to pivot would guarantee eventual obsolescence.
And it's those creative insights that unlock entirely new markets, right?
That's market expansion. It's achieved when creative thinkers can identify an underserved niche, a group whose needs just aren't being met, or when they creatively adapt an existing solution for a completely new, high-value application. They turn yesterday's discarded idea into tomorrow's profit center.
Okay, so that's growth. What's the second big reason?
The second reason is all about practical necessity, effective problem solving. The nature of business challenges today has fundamentally shifted. They are rarely simple or linear anymore.
The sources call these wicked problems.
They are. They're interconnected, often ill-defined, and they resist those traditional linear approaches. If you only rely on conventional logic and standard operating procedures, you'll just keep getting conventional and often inadequate solutions.
So creativity lets teams move beyond symptoms.
It encourages that deep creative dive you need to identify the root causes and come up with elegant long-term remedies. Creative thinkers are the ones who are comfortable navigating ambiguity.
They aren't paralyzed by uncertainty.
No, they're energized by it. They see the possibility of defining a unique path forward, even when the data is incomplete.
And this function is also vital for breaking through that internal resistance, that organizational inertia. It's about breaking mental models.
You know that phrase, that's how we've always done it.
The most dangerous phrase in business.
It is the death knell of a successful organization. Creative thinking provides the force you need to shatter those rigid paradigms. It allows for breakthrough solutions that challenge existing operational models, organizational charts, even industry standards. It unlocks efficiencies that your competitors, stuck in their old ways, just can't achieve.
Which leads right into the third reason, which is all about longevity. In a world defined by rapid change market volatility, supply chain disruptions organizations need agility.
This is enhanced adaptability and organizational resilience. Creative organizations are able to achieve what we call pivoting with purpose. They don't just wait for a recession or a new competitor to force them to change.
They're proactive.
They continuously simulate, imagine, and creatively adjust their strategies. Often, they pivot before the market even demands it, which allows them to capture those first-mover advantages we talked about.
And doing that requires a very specific relationship with failure.
It's indispensable. A creative culture sees setbacks not as career-ending catastrophes,
but as data.
As invaluable data points. This is the core of learning from failure and building real resilience. It allows organizations to absorb major shocks, learn quickly from the missteps, and come out stronger and more informed. This process of creatively questioning norms, asking, what if this whole market disappeared tomorrow? That's the ultimate form of future-proofing.
Okay, reason 4 brings it down to the human level, the experience of work itself.
Right. It's increased employee engagement and morale. A workplace that actively stifles intellectual exploration and creativity will inevitably lead to low engagement.
If you treat employees like cogs in a machine,
they'll behave like cogs in a machine. It's that simple. Conversely, when you foster creativity, you ignite professional passion. When employees are given the autonomy and freedom to contribute novel ideas and actually see them implemented, they develop a profound sense of ownership.
And that fosters intrinsic motivation, which is so much more powerful than just extrinsic incentives like bonuses.
Exponentially more. Moreover, creative problem solving is just inherently rewarding. It provides deep intellectual stimulation and a great sense of personal accomplishment when a team successfully navigates a complex challenge with a new, elegant solution.
And in today's fiercely competitive labor market, that has to be a huge magnet for top talent.
It really is. Talent attraction is crucial. The best, most ambitious professionals are actively looking for environments that offer opportunities for creative expression, for learning, for meaningful contribution. A culture where ideas are not just welcomed, but actively sought out. That's the ultimate magnet for high-performing, innovative minds.
Okay, moving to reason 5. This is about the long-term impact in the marketplace.
This is strategic competitive advantage. In a world where operational blueprints and technologies are shared so quickly, basic products and services become commodities almost overnight.
Right.
Sustained advantage only comes from doing things uniquely, in ways that your competitors just can't easily replicate. And creative thinking directly generates those unique value propositions.
So it's about securing a distinct market position that isn't just about being cheaper, but about genuine differentiation through unique products or a singular customer experience.
Or even internal efficiencies that are hard to copy. And if an organization can creatively anticipate market shifts faster than its rivals, it gains that critical first-mover advantage. And this doesn't just mean getting there first.
More than that.
It means establishing brand leadership, setting industry standards, and locking in that early market share that provides compounding returns for years to come. That advantage is born from a creative culture of foresight.
And finally, reason 6 brings this whole discussion right home to the individual listener. This is probably the most practical reason for you to invest in this skill right now.
It is. It's future-proofing individual careers. As AI takes over more routine and analytical functions, the skills that defined success yesterday, like methodical data processing, are going to become automated table stakes.
So the demand for uniquely human skills just intensifies.
It does. And creative thinking becomes the cornerstone of a truly irreplaceable skill set. The ability to look at a bunch of disparate data points and generate a novel hypothesis, to synthesize complex information into an original strategy, to solve problems that are ill-defined and fuzzy, these are skills that remain profoundly beyond what current AI can do.
So individuals who can demonstrate that capacity are going to be seen as essential.
As essential leaders and innovators. It guarantees career advancement and greater influence. And we shouldn't overlook the personal element either. Beyond just career survival, engaging in creative work provides a deep sense of personal fulfillment. It makes the whole professional journey more rewarding and sustainable.
It transforms work from a transaction into a purpose.
That's a great way to put it.
The case is definitely made. Now we need to transition from the why to the how. The material gives us 6 highly actionable strategies. And we need to remember, these aren't just passive suggestions. They demand intentional practice and, well, often require challenging some pretty deep-seated organizational habits.
That's the key difference. These are practices, not just traits. They require deliberate changes in both routine and culture.
So where do we start?
Strategy number 1 is the foundation. Embrace diverse perspectives. This is the catalyst, because homogeneity is the absolute death knell of innovation. If everyone in the room has the same background, the same training, the same worldview,
they'll inevitably arrive at the same, probably safe conclusions.
Always. Diversity is vital because it introduces what you might call productive friction. It challenges the established narrative and gives you a richer, broader pool of ideas to draw from.
And we have to think broadly about what diversity means here, right? It's not just one thing.
You have to. It must include cognitive diversity, different ways of approaching and processing information. And it should include experiential diversity, people from different functional areas of the business. And of course, demographic diversity.
So how do you make that happen? You can't just mandate it. You have to create mechanisms to make those different perspectives interact in a constructive way.
One of the most effective mechanisms is intentionally structuring cross-functional teams. When you're facing a major challenge, you have to deliberately assemble people from groups that don't normally interact. Put marketing, sales, engineering, finance, and legal all in the same room.
And each of them sees the problem through a completely unique and probably conflicting organizational lens.
And those conflicts are where the magic happens. They force a creative synthesis. Other powerful tools are things like customer co-creation, where you bring your actual end users into the ideation process for that raw, unfiltered feedback.
They can help you uncover those unarticulated, unmet needs.
They're the only ones who can. And, surprisingly effective, is reverse mentoring. You pair junior staff with senior leaders specifically to challenge those established norms with fresh perspectives on technology and trends. It breaks down the hierarchy that can silence young, creative voices.
Let's dig into those detail examples. The one about the automotive design team is fantastic.
It illustrates the point perfectly. I mean, developing a new electric vehicle could easily just be a job for mechanical engineers and industrial designers.
The usual suspects.
Right. But this creative organization broadened the scope to include urban planners to understand city movement. They brought in sociologists to understand shifts in lifestyle. And, critically, they brought in gamers.
Gamers. Okay, explain that one. Why gamers?
Because gamers have these profound, often untapped insights into user interface preferences, visual hierarchy, intuitive design. They're navigating complex digital worlds for hours every day. The resulting vehicle design incorporated features like modular battery packs and highly customizable interiors specifically for different urban lifestyles. Features an engineer focused only on torque would likely never have considered.
And the healthcare process improvement example about patient wait times is just as illuminating.
It is. In that case, the hospital task force had the usual doctors, nurses, and admin staff, but they intentionally included patients and their family members.
Ah, the end user again.
Yes. The staff had become so used to the standard procedures, the queues, the forms, that they were kind of desensitized to the friction points. The patient perspective highlighted the real pain points. The lack of information during the wait, the discomfort, the fear. This led to creative non-clinical solutions like virtual waiting rooms and real-time communication apps. They focused on managing the experience of waiting, not just cutting the time by a few minutes.
Okay, strategy 2. This one is about combating the psychological element that just cripples creativity, fear.
It's about fighting premature judgment. We have to encourage idea dumping without judgment. If there's any fear of ridicule or criticism, the most promising ideas will die unsaid.
So in this initial stage, it's all about quantity over quality.
Purely. It's about encouraging maximum divergent thinking. This is crucial because even an idea that seems completely unfeasible, a bad idea, often contains a single seed of genius, or it highlights a critical constraint that leads you to a breakthrough.
So during these initial sessions, you have to be really strict about the standard brainstorming rules.
Absolutely no criticism.
Yeah.
Wild ideas are not just encouraged, they are demanded. And the conversational rule has to be yes and to build on concepts, never yes but, which just shuts them down.
And we can use structured techniques to force this. The scamper method is a really effective one.
It's a powerful checklist that systematically forces you to break constraints. It's an acronym: substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and reverse.
That turns a vague goal, like be more creative, into a defined, repeatable process.
It does. There are also simpler methods, like random word association. You connect an entirely random concept, say cactus or cloud, to your business problem. It forces the brain to make these novel, unexpected links, bypassing your usual logical pathways.
The examples here really show the power of accepting the ridiculous, like the team trying to improve internal communication.
Their ideas range from mandatory daily group hugs to the ridiculous telepathic implants. Now, while the implants are impossible, the discussion around instant frictionless delivery led the team to prototype a dedicated one-way messaging system for urgent alerts. The group hug idea, which represented connection, sparked a feature for automated peer recognition messages.
So 2 valuable features came from one technically impractical but creatively useful idea.
That's the power of it. And when you use Scamper to revamp customer onboarding, you don't just get 1 or 2 improvements.
You get dozens.
You consider combining emails with personalized videos, adapting processes from the hotel industry, modifying the sequence of information, even reversing the whole process. This systematic constraint breaking ensures all possibilities are explored.
And I really appreciate the concept of the bad ideas session.
It's therapeutic, and it's productive. You dedicate time purely to brainstorming the worst possible product launches. It just alleviates that fear of proposing something terrible. And paradoxically, when you define why an idea is so bad, say a launch idea involves a hugely expensive, risky skydiving stunt, you often uncover critical budgetary or safety constraints that were missed in the good idea sessions. It helps you refine your viable plans.
Moving to strategy 3, this is about breaking the cognitive shackles we put on ourselves.
It's about challenging assumptions regularly. Assumptions are those unexamined beliefs about how things must work, what the customer wants, how resources must be structured.
They're the invisible handcuffs of innovation. They represent that internal resistance to radical change. So challenging them is vital because so many impossible ideas are only impossible because they violate some long-standing, unexamined belief.
And we need structured methods to bring these assumptions out into the open. One of the best known is the 5 whys technique. You just systematically peel back the layers of symptoms by repeatedly asking why until you get to the root cause.
And then there's the complementary method of assumption reversal.
Yes. You list all your core beliefs about a project, for instance. Customers want cheap delivery. Then you try to solve the problem, assuming the exact opposite is true. Customers want expensive, premium delivery. This exercise is incredibly effective at revealing latent opportunities you'd never see otherwise.
The pre-mortem analysis is another great way to expose hidden assumptions.
It forces creative thinking about risk. You get the team together, and you ask them to imagine that the project has failed spectacularly 18 months from now. Then you ask them to write the story of why it failed.
That's powerful.
It surfaces unexamined risks, faulty assumptions, potential conflicts, all before they happen. It allows for creative, proactive mitigation.
Let's look at the business impact. When a company challenges the fundamental assumption of rethinking the workday.
For generations, the core assumption was that productivity is tied to physical presence, 9 to 5. When a company creatively challenged this, what if productivity is optimized by autonomy and flexibility? It led to highly successful hybrid or remote models that dramatically increased satisfaction and broadened the talent pool.
The traditional bookstore experience example also hinges on a massive assumption.
The assumption is that a bookstore exists only to sell books. But a creative leader challenged this. What if people come for community, for discovery, for experiences? And that transformed the physical store. They became cultural hubs with events, workshops, cafes. It unlocked new revenue streams and increased traffic, proving the value was in the creative environment, not just the inventory.
And in the B2B sector, when a software company challenges the assumption that clients only want an off-the-shelf product,
they might realize that a huge portion of their clients struggle with implementation. By creatively challenging the notion that they only sell a product, they can launch a lucrative premium consulting service. This moved them up the value chain from product provider to strategic partner, a massive creative leap.
Strategy 4 is about structural commitment. It's not enough to just want it to happen.
You have to allocate time for exploration and experimentation. Creativity needs breathing room. It needs oxygen away from the immediate pressure of deadlines and quarterly results.
You need to create a space that signals that experimentation is a core activity, not a distraction.
Exactly. This dedicated time allows for serendipity, those accidental but profound breakthroughs that happen when minds can wander without rigid performance constraints.
We've seen several formats for this. The most famous is probably 20% time.
Allowing employees to dedicate a day a week to projects of their own choosing, outside their immediate job. It signals profound trust and commitment. And that autonomy led directly to revolutionary innovations like Gmail and AdSense.
Other formats are more focused, like hackathons and innovation sprints,
which are great for rapid prototyping and solving specific contained challenges. And maybe the simplest of all is just encouraging deep work, blocking off significant, uninterrupted time for complex creative tasks, recognizing that real idea generation can't happen in 15-minute gaps between meetings.
The example of the manufacturing discovery workshop shows how this can transform even very traditional industries.
Right. In this traditional firm, they allocated 1 day a month for wild idea sessions. One team focused on their trash, their costly waste material recycling process. By spending a full day just creatively exploring the material's properties, they discovered a way to re-engineer it into a raw material for specialized composites,
creating a brand new, high-margin revenue stream out of what used to be a financial liability.
That's the ultimate creative win, turning a cost center into a profit center. We also saw it in the healthcare hackathon. Doctors and tech staff were given 48 hours to solve small problems. The winning project was a simple app connecting patients awaiting surgery with peer mentors who had been through the same procedure.
That's not about medicine or tech, really.
It was a creative, human solution to the problem of patient anxiety. And it resulted in better patient preparation and outcomes, all generated just by allocating that focused time.
Okay, strategy 5. This one might be the hardest to implement because it goes against years of corporate habit.
It is. Foster a safe-to-fail environment. We have to accept that the fear of failure is the most powerful inhibitor of creativity.
If innovation requires taking risks, and risk-taking inherently has a chance of failure, then those failures have to be treated as tuition, not termination.
That's it, exactly. True innovation requires venturing into uncomfortable territory. A safe environment allows for accelerated learning. Mistakes become powerful teachers and valuable data points, rather than something to be hidden or feared.
And this has to start at the top, with leadership role modeling.
Leaders must openly discuss their own significant failures, not just their triumphs. They need to detail the lessons they learned and how those setbacks contributed to later successes. It demonstrates that mistakes are an accepted, even expected, part of growth.
And the key mechanism for managing this is the postmortem focused on learning.
The debriefings have to move entirely away from assigning blame. The question should be structured: what happened? Why did this happen? And most critically, what concrete changes can we implement next time? This commitment to celebrating effort, acknowledging the courage and the lessons learned, even if the project failed, is non-negotiable.
The software project failure example showcased this perfectly.
Right. A high-profile product launch failed due to lack of adoption. The team didn't look for a scapegoat. Their post-mortem identified that they had focused too much on technical specs and lacked early user feedback. That learning, the necessity of co-creation, was shared company-wide, preventing similar issues in every subsequent project. The knowledge gained was infinitely more valuable than the cost of that one failed launch.
I also love the idea of Failure Fridays as a cultural tool.
Design agencies use this well. An hour where team members share one failed experiment from the week. What they tried, why it didn't work. It destigmatizes mistakes, allows the team to laugh about the small ones, and ensures that constructive advice replaces shame and fear.
Final strategy, number 6. This one seems almost too simple, but it's often neglected.
It's change your scenery. Our physical and mental environments are deeply influential on our thought patterns. Familiar surroundings reinforce habitual, constrained thinking.
So novel environments stimulate new neural pathways, literally forcing the brain out of its cognitive rut.
And we have to apply this both physically and mentally. Physically, this means encouraging off-site meetings in unusual places, a museum, a library, a park, to break the routine of the conference room. It means having flexible workspaces and actively encouraging nature breaks. Even a 15-minute walk is proven to boost creativity.
And mentally?
Mentally, it means encouraging the learning of new, unrelated skills. If a software manager studies pottery, or a salesperson takes an improv comedy class, they're forcing their brain to adopt new problem-solving methods from entirely different fields. And they bring those creative methods back to their core job.
The team offsite at an art gallery is a fantastic illustration of this.
A software team struggling with a difficult user interface problem holds their session at a modern art gallery. They spend 30 minutes just discussing abstract pieces, how the artist used negative space, color, hierarchy to convey meaning. Discussing the art sparks completely new ideas for intuitive navigation in their software. They suddenly see their UI problem through the lens of artistic composition, not just code.
And the curiosity budget example shows how small investments can have big creative payoffs.
An ad agency gives employees a modest budget to spend on anything that sparks their interest. A lecture, a class, a concert. The agency found this investment immediately enriches their campaigns, filling them with fresh cultural references and unexpected analogies that make their work stand out.
It could be as simple as promoting walk-and-talk meetings for problem solving.
Leaders report that the physical movement and change of view leads to more open discussions, breaks down hierarchy, and encourages spontaneous insights. It proves that creative flow is often tied directly to our physical state.
So we have these 6 strategies, but none of them can exist in a vacuum. It all comes back to the environment.
We have to reiterate this. All these strategies are practices, but creative thinking only truly flourishes when it's fostered and championed by leadership. Leaders are the essential architects of the culture.
So if the culture is the soil, what are the core leader responsibilities in nurturing creativity?
First, they have to engage in modeling creative behavior. Leaders must visibly show curiosity, question their own decisions, and show a genuine willingness to challenge the sacred cows of the organization. They have to lead by example.
Okay.
Second, they're responsible for providing safety and resources. That includes allocating not just budget, but the critical time and psychological safety needed for people to take risks.
They also have to actively promote a culture of inquiry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This means consistently asking powerful, open-ended questions like, what if the opposite were true? Or why are we the only company doing it this way? It forces lateral thinking throughout the whole organization.
And finally, they have to act as protectors.
Leaders must be a shield, protecting initiatives. New, untested ideas are so vulnerable to internal politics, to premature financial modeling, to bureaucracy. Leaders have to protect those nascent projects, giving them the space they need to develop and prove their potential without being crushed by the weight of the status quo.
But even with the best intentions from leadership, creativity can be surprisingly fragile. It can be easily stifled by some very common organizational roadblocks. We need to be aware of what those are.
The biggest one, inevitably, is fear of failure and risk aversion. If the culture either implicitly or explicitly punishes mistakes, breakthrough opportunities will never even be attempted. This is the single highest hurdle to overcome.
And a constant challenge, especially in high-growth companies, is the lack of time and resources. That dedicated exploration time, the 20% time, the hackathons, is often the first thing to get cut when deadlines or budget pressures appear.
Then you have the structural resistance, organizational bureaucracy and hierarchy. Rigid, multi-layered approval processes and tall hierarchies just instantly crush the empowerment you need for creative impulse. You need flatter, more fluid structures to let ideas flow and be tested quickly.
And we have to fight those internal cultural biases, like the not invented here syndrome.
That is the damaging reluctance to adopt a potentially brilliant idea, simply because it came from outside your own team or department. Leadership has to actively promote that cross-pollination to fight this.
And we also have to acknowledge our own human failings, our cognitive biases.
We are naturally prone to confirmation bias, seeking out information that validates what we already believe, and anchoring bias, over-relying on the first piece of information we hear. Creative thinking requires actively challenging these default mental shortcuts.
And finally, the material warns against an over-reliance on logic and data alone.
Data is absolutely essential for that second component, the convergent thinking and evaluation. But an exclusive focus on quantifiable data often leads only to safe, incremental improvements. True breakthrough innovation requires imagination, intuition, and that willingness to make an imaginative leap, that audacious leap of faith that the data simply can't justify yet. Intuition has to be welcomed into the process right alongside rigorous analysis.
This deep dive has really confirmed that creative thinking is the fundamental human advantage in an automated and complex world. It's that sophisticated ability to see what others don't, to connect the unconnected, and to transform challenges into opportunities.
And for the listener, cultivating this skill is more than just a professional asset. It's a pathway to greater professional fulfillment, to enhanced resilience against market shifts, and to long-term career longevity. It ensures that you are proactively shaping your professional future rather than becoming obsolete. It really is the strategic imperative for organizations and for individuals.
We focused heavily today on the intentional cultivation of creativity. But as a final provocative thought for you to consider, if artificial intelligence becomes increasingly capable of synthesizing vast data sets, meaning it handles the critical analysis and connection of existing facts, will the highest value human creativity eventually be defined by our ability to generate the most daring and original first questions? The fundamental problem framing that the AI hasn't even been asked yet. That requires imagination, not just calculation. We hope this deep dive into creative thinking in the workplace has provided you with valuable insights and actionable strategies. If you enjoyed this advanced English listening practice, remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.